My goal today with today's review game is to help you feel prepared for your test that's coming up tomorrow over sections 6.1 through 6.6. The first problem I want you to find out is find the percent of change as an increase or a decrease and round to the nearest 10th percent. All right, so remember, you're finding the percent of change. Remember that formula is AOC, the amount of change, divided by the original amount. So if you think about it, a kitchen, we could say, has 120 meals to start with, all right? At the end of the day, they only have 52 meals. I need to figure out how much the amount of change was from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. How do I figure out the amount of change, class?
Subtract 122 by 52.
You subtract, okay? 120 meals by 52 meals. And what was the original amount of meals they had at the beginning of the day?
120.
Divided by 120, okay? How many of you would say you got that far at least? Okay, what is 120 minus 52? 68. Now you've got 68 divided by 120. I saw on the quiz yesterday, this is where people started to struggle. When you put this into your calculator, what is 68 divided by 120?
0.566
Okay, 0.56 repeating, okay? And the sixes go on and on forever. Now here's what you got to figure out. We need to, before you guys try to round, you have to turn this into a percentage. That's where most people made their mistake, okay? How many of you would say you just looked at that and figured out how to round it? Okay? What you've got to do is change that to a percentage. Move that decimal point 2 places over to the right, which would then give you 56.66, and it keeps repeating, percent. Now is the time when you need to round. What do the instructions say? Round to the nearest 10th. Remember, the 10th place is the one right after the decimal point. Okay, we're having struggles remembering that. So that is where that little guy looks at his neighbor and says, hey, are you 5 or bigger? What's that 6 say?
Yes.
Yes, so what happens to 56.6? It goes up to 56.7%. Okay, now think about it. We had 120 meals, and at the end of the day, we had 52 meals. Is that an increase or a decrease? That is a decrease, okay? The amount of meals we had decreased. So the correct answer is 56.7% decrease. Number 2 is asking us to use the percent proportion to solve. Please make sure you start with the percent proportion formula and then plug in each of the steps. Okay, first off, what is the percent proportion?
Is over of equals P over 100.
Okay, listen, a lot of people got the right answer on their quiz yesterday, but they did P times of equals is. I am looking to make sure you understand what the percent proportion is. If you do not have this part so far written down, you need to erase your board and fix it, okay? So now that we know what the percent proportion is, we're going to separate this into 3 separate parts. 40 is what percent, and of 32. Help me to understand, guys. What's my is? 40. What's my of? 32. And we are looking for the percent, so we're going to keep it as a P. Okay, so once again, make sure you're following along on your boards. We are going to do this using cross products. We've got 32 times P equals 40 times 100. There's nothing that I can do to the 32P, so I'll just drop it down. Guys, what's 40 times 100? 4,000. How can I get P by itself? All right, very good. So we got to be fair, and on both sides we're going to divide by 32. What is 4,000 divided by 32? 125. The main thing you want to remember at this point is it says 40 is what percent of 32. So a lot of people just boxed this in and said 125. Unfortunately, if you got that wrong on your quiz and you just forgot the percent, you still need to go back and redo the problem, but this time, make sure you put in that the correct answer was 125%. All right, so the next one, number 3, I want you to write down what is the percent of change formula. Yesterday on your quiz, you had to know 5 different formulas, and this is one of them you will still need to know for your test. What is the percent of change formula? All right, my first team that had the correct answer, AOC over original, is Jalen's team. Okay, for number 4, you're trying to find the selling price. Originally, it was $150, but there is a discount of 15%. All right, so this is the way that I saw a lot of people doing the problem. We do want a formula. P times of equals is, okay, if you don't have that written down on your board, go ahead and put that down for me, please. This is what I saw a lot of people do. They changed that percent to a decimal. What would this be as a decimal? 0.15, okay, and then they multiplied it times the original price, 150. When they did that, what did they get? Okay, $22.50. All right. Do you think that it would make sense for something to originally be $150, them to take 15% off, and the final answer of their selling price to be $22.50? No. Okay, that would be way too small. They're only taking 15% off. So guess what? This would be $22.50 off the regular price. Okay. All right, now what I have to do is I take my original price, $150, and subtract the discount, minus $22.50. I want you guys to put that in your calculators if you did not get this far. All right, Talila, what's the answer? Very good, $127.50. This is what I saw a lot of people do, though. When they did this problem on their quiz, they left it like this. Guys, what's wrong with that? You have to have two numbers, okay? So this right here, you might have seen this on your quiz when I graded it. A little question mark there because, as she just said, we have to make sure that we've got that 0 there, two numbers after the decimal point. Now, many of you would say, that's not the way you taught it to us at first, Ms. Forpaul. And it's not. You can do it that way, but you don't have to. Think about it. They are selling it normally for 100% of the cost. But they've decided to take off 15% of the cost of that. What total percentage do we have to pay as a customer? 85%. Now, this is the way that I've taught you to do it. You take the amount that you have to pay, 0.85, and multiply it times 150. Did anyone do it this way? Put it in your calculators and show me what you get. 0.85 times 150, because that's 85% is the cost you have to pay. $127.50. Is that the same thing that we got before? Yeah, look at that. Those are the same exact answers done two separate ways. I do not care which way you do it. However, it seems this way, if you do the percentage you have to pay, is a bit faster, okay? But you could do it either way, or you could do it both ways and check to see if you get the same answer. All right, question number 5, trivia question of the day. What is Miss Vorpal's favorite drink to get at the coffee shop? It is a white chocolate mocha with caramel syrup in it. It's amazing.
Oh, then I was right. I put the...
All right, for question number 6, you are trying to find the amount of time. Okay, so sometimes what I taught you at the beginning, it helps to write it out, IPRT. We know the interest is $60. We know the principal is $400. Now, what does it say for the rate? 5%. What do we have to do with that? Turn it into a decimal. So what would that be as a decimal? 0.05. And do we know the time? No, we do not. So we're just going to put a little question mark. Okay, so now we start off with our formula. I equals PRT. Do we know the I?
Yes.
What is the I? Okay, so our I, I'm going to plug in instead $60. Do we know our P? Okay, so instead we're going to plug in $400. Do we know our rate? Okay, remember you always want to change that to a decimal, so our rate is 0.05. And how about our time? T, we're going to keep the T there. On the quiz, I saw a lot of people just let the T disappear. Remember, we are looking for a variable to solve, so make sure you keep that t there. Also, on the left side, it doesn't look like I can do anything, so I'm just going to bring that $60 down. But is there anything on the right side I can do?
400 times 0.05.
Very good. We're going to take this number and multiply it by that. When you multiply 400 times 0.05, what do you get? 20t. How do I get that to be t by itself? Divide both sides by 20. Okay, now t equals 3 what? 3 years. Question number 7 says, what unit should the time be in whenever you are finding simple interest? Class, what is it? Years. Remember, sometimes it'll come out in months, but you've got to change it to how many years it would be. For question number 8, it says a store pays $95 for AirPods. What is the selling price when the markup is 36%? So I like to use the formula P times of equals is, or you can just use the $95 and the 36%. So we've got to change that 36% to a decimal. What would that be? 0.36 times the original price that they paid, $95. What is that when those two are multiplied together? Okay, listen, you guys are putting it in calculators and many people are telling me 34.2. What's wrong with that? I need the zero. Make sure we've got the zero at the end. Now, does it make sense for a store to pay $95 and then to sell it to us after a markup for $34.20? That is only the markup, okay? A lot of people, though, are telling me that that's the final answer. That's the markup. Isaac, what is it that I have to do?
You have to add it to the original price.
You are correct. So I add $95 plus $34.20. Then what is it that they sell it for?
$129.20.
$129.20 is their selling price. All right, number 9. Of the 25 students on a field trip, 16 of them bring cameras. What percent of the students bring cameras? Okay, for a problem like this, a lot of you guys are using AOC over original. But if you look, there's nothing on here that's asking for the amount of change, okay? It's asking us to find a percent. When looking for a percent, you're either going to use the percent proportion or the percent equation. And it is fine with me either way that you choose or want to do it. But let's say you use the percent proportion. That would be is over of equals P over 100. I want you to remember when doing that, the is will always be the part, and the of will always be the whole or the total, okay? A lot of people used this way, but some people like to use the percent equation, which is fine also. The P, once again, just remember if you're doing it this way, the P will be the percent, the of will be your whole, and the is will be your part, okay? So if I do it this way, I don't know the percent. Once again, when you're looking for percent, always do percent proportion or percent equation. Okay, we don't know the P, so we're going to keep it as a P. Of, what is the whole number of students that went on the field trip? 25, so we're going to multiply times 25. What is the part of them that brought cameras? 16. Okay, how do I get P by itself? Divide by 25 on both sides. Okay, what is 16 divided by 25?
It's 64. I mean 0.64.
Okay, 0.64. Do I want it as a decimal?
A percent.
I would like it to be a percent, so we're going to go ahead and move it over 2 places to the right. What's the answer? 64% is our final answer. All right, for the final question of our review game, you estimate that there are 68 marbles in a jar. The actual amount is 60 marbles. Find the percent error and round to the nearest whole percent. All right, just to help you out for those who are struggling, you are going to take, what's the formula?
Error over amount of
The amount of error over the
amount.
actual amount. So if you're struggling, use that to help you try to plug some things in. Okay, so how would I find the amount of error for these marbles? Good job. We're going to subtract it. There was, you guessed 68, but there were actually 60. That's going to help me find the amount of error. What was the actual amount of marbles that were there? 60. Okay, a lot of people struggled with this part right here. You're just always going to subtract the difference to find what the error was. Guys, what is 68 minus 60?
8. And then you round up to
8.
10.
Okay, now the rounding part is also what's tricking people up. When I plug that into my calculator, I get 0.13 repeating. Should I turn this into a percentage first, or should I round it right now? Turn it to a percentage first. So move that over 2 times, which would give us 13.333%. Round to the nearest what? It says round to the nearest whole percent. So the whole number would be what? 13. That's the whole number. A whole number is what comes before the decimal point. It looks at his little neighbor. Hey, 3, are you 5 or bigger? What's that 3 say? No. So does the 13 stay the same or get bigger? It stays the same. So there was a 13% error. All right, guys, listen. Your test is tomorrow, over 6-1 to 6-6. Please come to help class if you did not do well on your quiz.